to Jurassic Park.
We've made living biological attractions so astounding.
When Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park hit cinema screens in 1993, it didn't just change filmmaking. It completely transformed how audiences experience the impossible. The film became a cultural phenomenon that went way beyond being just another blockbuster, embedding itself into the minds of an entire generation. However, beneath all those roaring T-Rexes and genius scientists lies a wealth of untold stories, technical miracles, and near disasters that the cast and crew have only recently begun sharing in candid interviews. Over the last few years, the prominent cast members, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and others, have opened up about their experiences in ways they never did during the original press tours. What they've shared paints a picture of a production that was equal parts visionary genius and controlled chaos. The line between movie magic and genuine terror blurred surprisingly. From the psychological impact of working with Stan Winston's scarily realistic animatronics to the unexpected injuries that never made headlines, from the improvised moments that became iconic to the scenes that actually traumatized the actors, these stories reveal a filmmaking experience as wild as the finished movie. Get ready to discover what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling and secrets hidden in plain sight throughout the film. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss this. The animatronic T-Rex started moving on its own. During rain scenes, Sam Neill has talked many times about one particular night of filming that was genuinely scary in ways that had nothing to do with acting. The full-size T-Rex robot weighed about 12,000 pounds and stood 20 feet tall. During the famous rainy attack scene, it glitched. Water mixed with its rubber skin caused a strange problem. The T-Rex started moving on its own between takes. We would be setting up for the next shot, and this massive head would just start turning toward us, Neill said in a 2018 interview. The shuddering, the twitching, it wasn't supposed to do that. The effects team would rush in to shut it down, but there's something deeply disturbing about a predator that size moving when it's not supposed to. Stan Winston's team had built the animatronic with incredibly sophisticated servo mechanisms and hydraulics. When the foam skin absorbed water, it became significantly heavier. This extra weight caused the carefully calibrated system to behave unpredictably. The sensors detected the additional pounds as intentional movement commands. The technicians spent hours between takes trying to keep the creature's skin dry, but the rain machines needed for the scene made it impossible. Jeff Goldblum admitted that these malfunctions actually made the genuine fear in the actors' performances stronger. You're supposed to be acting terrified, but when that thing lunges toward you on its own and everyone's screaming, including the crew, you're not acting anymore. That's real adrenaline. Several takes in the final film capture the actors' genuine startled reactions to unexpected movements, creating an organic terror that no amount of direction could have produced. The production lost nearly 3 full shooting days to these technical problems. Steven Spielberg often filmed reaction shots as Winston's team frantically worked to fix the animatronic between takes. The irony of it all was that they were making a movie about people losing control of their creations, while they were actually losing control of their own creation. Laura Dern's arm injury changed how we saw Ellie Sattler. Laura Dern got a serious arm injury during the movie. The injury happened when the massive animatronic sauropod's neck mechanism broke down during what should have been a gentle interaction scene. The rig was supposed to move very slowly and smoothly, but there was a hydraulic surge, Dern explained in a 2020 podcast interview. The neck swung around faster than anyone expected, and I instinctively put my arm up. The impact was substantial, but we were already behind schedule, and I was terrified of being seen as the person slowing down production. Dern worked with the on-set medic to create a compression wrap that wouldn't show under her costumes. She modified her performance to minimize movements that would reveal the injury. This physical limitation was part of why she played Ellie Sattler's determination and toughness. Steven Spielberg eventually noticed something was wrong during the Velociraptor kitchen scene near the end of filming. "Steven has this incredible eye for detail," Dern noted. "He pulled me aside and asked directly if I was hurt. Once he knew, he and Stan Winston's team changed some of the planned stunts and worked with me to make sure we captured what we needed without making the injury worse. The injury required months of physical therapy after filming Wrapped, but Dern has always said she has no regrets. The physical challenge actually deepened her connection to Ellie's resilience and resourcefulness. She wasn't just acting tired, she truly was, and that made every movement and expression feel real and unforgettable. The iconic rippling water shot was discovered completely by accident. One of Jurassic Park's most iconic images, the rippling water in the cup signaling the approaching Tyrannosaurus Rex, wasn't in the original script and was discovered by accident during a location scout. The effect became so synonymous with the film that it's been referenced and parodied countless times. Still, its origin story reveals the kind of lucky filmmaking magic that defined the production. However, creating the effect was very difficult. The solution involved a guitar string. The effects team ran a tensioned guitar string from underneath the dashboard to a mechanism below the vehicle that could pluck it at precise intervals, creating consistent vibrations that translated into those perfect concentric rings. The frequency and tension were explicitly adjusted to create the visual effect that appeared most ominous on camera. The actors had to deliver their dialogue and reactions in sync with the rhythmic ripples, using them as a metronome for the approaching threat. Sam Neill has mentioned that those ripples became a crucial anchor point for his performance, giving him something tangible to react to when the dinosaur itself wasn't yet visible. The effect was so successful that it's become a filmmaking shorthand for approaching giant creatures, used in everything from The Lost World to Godzilla films to Transformers. It's proof of the power of practical effects and the value of staying observant during production. Some of the most memorable moments in cinema history happened because someone noticed something unexpected and recognized its potential. The Velociraptor's intelligence was based on real animal research. One of the most unsettling aspects of the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park is their evident intelligence and coordinated hunting behavior. What many fans don't realize is that this portrayal was based on extensive research into pack hunting behavior conducted by the production team. However, the specific animals they studied weren't actually dinosaurs. This research directly influenced both the design of the animatronics and the way the puppeteers operated them. The raptors' head movements, the way they tracked targets with their eyes, even the timing of their blinks were choreographed to suggest thinking rather than simple instinctive behavior. Watch the famous Clever Girl scene. The raptor doesn't just attack, it observes, calculates, and executes a flanking maneuver that demonstrates strategic thinking. The kitchen scene particularly showcases this intelligence, with the raptors demonstrating problem-solving behavior, learning from failed attempts, and even using apparently deceptive tactics, one raptor creating a distraction while another attempts to flank the children. These behaviors were carefully choreographed based on documented hunting strategies of various pack predators. Subsequent paleontological research has suggested that real velociraptors likely were quite intelligent by dinosaur standards and may indeed have been pack hunters, giving retroactive scientific validity to what was initially educated speculation based on similar modern predators. Dr. Jack Horner, who served as the film's paleontological consultant, has noted with amusement that Jurassic Park potentially influenced how later researchers thought about raptor behavior. The actors have all commented on how the raptors' designed intelligence affected their performances. Unlike reacting to a mindless monster, they had to portray the psychological complexity of being stalked by something that could think, plan, and adapt. It's a different kind of fear, Ariana Richards noted, not just running from danger, but trying to outsmart something that's also trying to outsmart you. The Gallimimus stampede required brand new camera techniques. The breathtaking scene of Dr. Grant and the children running with a stampeding herd of Gallimimus represents a masterpiece moment in visual effects, combining practical elements with computer-generated imagery in ways that had never been attempted before. The scene required Neil and the young actors to maintain precise positioning and timing while running, turning, and reacting to creatures that wouldn't be added for months. Cinematographer Dean Cundy developed a new Steadicam technique specifically for this scene, allowing the camera to track the actors through rough terrain while maintaining the stability necessary for clean computer generation imagery application. The Gallimimus itself represented a significant technical achievement. Unlike the T-Rex, which could be created as a full-scale animatronic, or the Raptors, which were primarily seen in close-quarters scenes, the Gallimimus needed to be fully digital creatures moving at high speed through changing light conditions and interacting with real terrain. ILM's Dennis Murin has discussed the challenges of making the Gallimimus's movement appear natural. We studied footage of ostriches, emus, and any large running birds we could find, and analyzed how their locomotion worked, but then we had to figure out how creatures of that specific size and mass would move, accounting for physics that nobody had ever animated before. The shadows became a particular obsession. The Gallimimus cast shadows on the terrain, but the actors and landscape also needed to cast shadows on the digital dinosaurs. Achieving this level of integration required pioneering work in ray tracing and lighting simulation. Some of the techniques developed specifically for this scene became foundational to computer-generated imagery integration methods used throughout the industry for decades. Neil has mentioned that watching the completed scene was surreal. I remembered running through that field, breathing hard, terrified I had twisted an ankle or missed my mark. Then, seeing it with the dinosaurs added, these massive, beautiful creatures thundering around us, it was like discovering a memory you didn't know you had. The experience I had imagined while filming had become retroactively real. The scene almost had a real-life touch that was later dropped. For a short time, the filmmakers thought about using trained ostriches in front of the actors so they would have something real to look at. However, after testing, they realized that having big, fast birds running around on set wasn't safe or easy to control. In the end, they decided to skip the ostriches and depend fully on the actors' imaginations and the director's guidance to bring the scene to life. Laura Dern fought to keep Ellie Sattler strong and capable. Ellie Sattler could easily have been written as a damsel in distress, but Laura Dern refused to let that happen. Dern pushed for maintaining Ellie's isolation throughout the movie, arguing that it was essential to demonstrate her individuality and courage. I wanted a scene where Ellie was genuinely alone, making difficult choices, facing real danger, and succeeding through competence and determination, Dern explained. Not because she's particularly trained in combat or has special powers, but because she's a scientist who understands what needs to be done and refuses to let fear prevent her from doing it. Spielberg ultimately agreed with this approach, and her scenes became one of the film's most suspenseful and character-defining moments. Dern also influenced Ellie's interactions with the male characters, particularly pushing back against any suggestion that her disagreements with Grant or Malcolm should be softened or made more polite. Ellie has strong opinions and isn't afraid to voice them. She challenges Hammond directly about the park's ethics. She calls out the safety failures without apologizing for them. That wasn't necessarily how women in big adventure films were typically written. One specific detail Dern insisted on: Ellie's clothing remained practical and consistent throughout the film, without any unnecessary wardrobe modifications common in action films of that era. She dresses like someone who actually works in the field. Her clothes get dirty and torn, and she doesn't somehow become more glamorous as the situation becomes more dire. That realism was important to me. The T-Rex attack used real fear from equipment failures. The Tyrannosaurus Rex attack on the tour vehicles is perhaps the most iconic scene in Jurassic Park, but what appears to be masterful acting from the cast was often genuine terror stemming from equipment failures and near accidents that occurred during filming. The plexiglass roof that the T-Rex breaks through wasn't supposed to shatter the way it did completely, Jeff Goldblum revealed in a 2014 interview. It was supposed to crack for visual effect but remain structurally intact. When the full weight of the animatronic head came down and the glass completely gave way, that terror you see on our faces is real. We legitimately thought we were about to be crushed by tons of machinery. The scene where Neil's character tries to get the T-Rex's attention with a flare also turned out to be harder than anyone expected. What looked simple on screen was actually tricky to film, with the heat, smoke, and timing all having to be just right for the moment to work. When you watch that scene, I'm actually concerned about getting burned by this flare while also trying to remember my blocking and imagine a giant dinosaur, Neil explained. The malfunctioning animatronic created another unexpected problem: unpredictable timing. Because the T-Rex's movements couldn't be perfectly controlled during certain takes, the actors genuinely didn't know exactly when or how the dinosaur would move. This uncertainty prevented them from anticipating beats the way actors normally would, resulting in fresh, genuine reactions. As terrifying as it was, Steven recognized that these accidents were creating something we couldn't have achieved through normal filmmaking, Goldblum noted. He kept certain takes where things went wrong because our reactions were so authentic. The child actors, Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards, were given special consideration during this scene. Stunt coordinators and additional safety personnel were positioned off-camera during any take involving the children and the animatronic. The rain, while creating the atmospheric quality that makes the scene so memorable, also created significant safety hazards. The water made surfaces slippery, affected visibility, and, as previously mentioned, caused the animatronic to behave unpredictably. The actors had to maintain their performances while genuinely concerned about practical safety issues, such as slipping on wet surfaces or being struck by malfunctioning equipment. One particularly dangerous moment that didn't make the final cut involved the animatronic's tail swinging through the set during a reset between takes, narrowly missing several crew members. The incident prompted additional safety protocols. The Brachiosaurus sneeze was a last-minute improvisation. The scene where the massive Brachiosaurus sneezes on Lex, covering her in dinosaur mucus, has become one of the film's most memorable comedic moments. Still, according to Ariana Richards and the special effects team, this moment was never in the original script. It came about through a spontaneous conversation between Spielberg and Stan Winston during a break in filming. We were doing the Brachiosaurus feeding scene, and there was this downtime while they reset the animatronic, Richards recalled in a 2019 interview. Steven and Stan were talking about how to make the dinosaurs feel more alive, more biological. Someone mentioned that large animals sneeze, and suddenly, Steven got this gleam in his eye. The practical challenge of creating a convincing dinosaur sneeze fell to the special effects team, who had to figure out how to deliver a substantial amount of slime with enough force to look authentic, but without actually hurting the young actress. They developed a compressed air system that could spray a carefully formulated mucus substitute at controlled pressure. The first test spray went completely wrong, Richards laughed during the same interview. It hit me with way more force than anyone expected, and I literally stumbled backward. Everyone rushed over to make sure I was okay. Once we knew I wasn't hurt, we all started laughing, including me. Steven loved my genuine shocked reaction and wanted to capture something similar. The mucus itself underwent several changes before reaching the right consistency. It needed to be thick enough to look appropriately gross but thin enough to spray properly. It also needed to be completely safe for contact with skin and eyes, since there was no way to guarantee it wouldn't hit Richard's face. The mixture was actually kind of cold, which made the reaction even more authentic, Richards noted. When it hits you, there's this initial shock of the temperature and the wetness. You can see on my face that I'm genuinely startled and disgusted, and that's because I was. Jeff Goldblum barely suppressed laughter. The other actors were also genuinely trying not to break character as they watched this absurd moment unfold. Spielberg recognized that their authentic amusement added to the scene's charm and kept it in the final cut. The sneeze serves a narrative purpose beyond comedy. It reinforces the dinosaurs' biological reality. They're living. Richards has said that being sneezed on by a dinosaur became one of her favorite stories from the production. People always ask me about the scary raptor scenes, but honestly, getting sneezed on by a giant animatronic dinosaur while trying to keep a straight face might be my fondest memory from that. The helicopter arrival scene featured real flying difficulties. The opening scene, where Grant, Ellie, and Malcolm arrive at Isla Nublar by helicopter, looks simple in the movie. Still, it was actually the opposite behind the scenes. Sam Neill and Laura Dern later explained that shooting those helicopter scenes was challenging, with the wind, noise, and motion making it hard to stay focused. It took several days of filming in the air to get everything just right. "I'm not particularly comfortable in helicopters to begin with," Neill admitted in a 2020 interview. Add to that the fact that we're doing dialogue scenes while flying over water with the doors open, wind screaming through the cabin, and trying to hit specific marks so the island appears in frame at the right moments. It was genuinely nerve-wracking. The helicopter used for filming was equipped with specialized camera mounts, but this equipment added weight and affected the aircraft's handling characteristics. The pilot had to account for these changes while also flying specific patterns to capture the shots Spielberg wanted, all while keeping the actors safe. Laura Dern has talked about the physical challenges of performing in the helicopter. "The wind noise was so loud that we couldn't hear each other or the director. We had to rely on hand signals and hope we were delivering our lines at the right time. Then in post-production, they replaced all our dialogue with ADR, because you literally couldn't hear anything we'd said on location." The view of Isla Nublar emerging from the mist was achieved through careful coordination between the helicopter pilot, the camera operator, and the visual effects team. The island itself is actually a composite. The aerial photography was shot at multiple locations in Hawaii, which were then combined with matte paintings and miniatures to create the final island appearance. Jeff Goldblum's apparent comfort in the helicopter scenes was actually carefully constructed. "I was absolutely terrified," Goldblum confessed in a 2017 interview, "but Malcolm is supposed to be this cool, unflappable character, so I couldn't show the fear I was actually feeling. I focused on the dialogue, on the character's intellectual curiosity, anything to distract from the fact that we're hanging out of a helicopter thousands of feet above the ocean." The scene where Hammond's helicopter joins them in formation required extremely precise flying from both pilots. The aircraft had to maintain specific distances and angles to make the shot work, all while dealing with variable wind conditions and the weight of camera equipment. "There were moments during those helicopter shoots where I genuinely questioned my career choices," Neill joked in interviews. "But Steven had this infectious enthusiasm that made you willing to do things you'd normally never agree to. He would describe the shot, explain how it would look in the final film, and somehow you'd find yourself hanging out of a helicopter thinking, 'Yes, this is perfectly reasonable.'" The helicopter scenes also established the film's sense of scale and isolation. By showing the journey to the island, the vast expanse of ocean, and the remoteness of the location, Spielberg created a visual sense that these characters were truly cut off from help, a crucial element in the tension that builds throughout the film. The Triceratops scene became an exercise in compassionate filmmaking. The encounter with the sick Triceratops is one of the film's quieter moments. Still, it required some of the production's most sophisticated animatronic work and became an unexpected lesson in compassionate filmmaking for everyone involved. The scene showcases Ellie's veterinary knowledge and establishes the park's operational problems, but behind the scenes, it pushes the limits of what could be achieved with practical effects. Stan Winston's team built a full-scale Triceratops. The animatronic weighed several tons and required a team of puppeteers working in coordination to bring it to life. Unlike the predatory dinosaurs, which needed to appear threatening, the Triceratops needed to evoke sympathy, a much more subtle emotional challenge. Making something appear sick and suffering is harder than making something appear aggressive, Winston explained in production interviews. The breathing had to be labored, the eye movements had to suggest discomfort, every detail had to communicate that this animal was genuinely unwell. The scene where Ellie literally has her arm inside the Triceratops's mouth, checking its tongue, was genuinely nerve-wracking for Dern, despite safety protocols. "That's a massive mechanical construct, and my arm is inside it. There are safety measures, but you're still very aware that if something went wrong, you could be seriously hurt. The tension you see on my face isn't all acting." Sam Neill has mentioned that watching Dern work with the Triceratops animatronic deepened his respect for her commitment to the role. Laura approached that mechanical creature with the same care and attention she would give a real animal. She wasn't just hitting marks and saying lines, She was genuinely connecting with it emotionally, which elevated everyone else's performance. The scene also features one of the film's more subtle visual effects achievements. The Triceratops' eye was animatronic and could move, blink, up even tear. The scene underwent significant changes from the novel, where the mystery of the sick dinosaur was tied into a larger subplot about the dinosaurs eating toxic plants. The film simplified this to maintain pacing, but kept the emotional core of the encounter, the recognition that creating life brings responsibility for that life's well-being. The Velociraptor door handle scene was physics, not computer-generated imagery. One of the film's most suspenseful moments, the Velociraptor testing the door handle, learning how it works, and then opening the door, appears so seamless that many fans assume it must have been achieved with computer-generated imagery or sophisticated puppetry. However, the production team has revealed that accomplishing this seemingly simple action was one of their most complex practical challenges. People see that scene and think it's movie magic, but it's actually physics, explained special effects supervisor Michael Lantieri in a 2010 interview. We needed the raptor to actually manipulate that handle, which meant the animatronic had to be capable of controlled, precise movements while bearing its own weight against the door. The raptor hand used for this shot was a separate, highly detailed animatronic controlled by puppeteers who could manipulate each finger independently. The challenge was to make the raptor's movement look curious and smart. It's not just pulling the handle by chance, it's studying it, learning how it works, and then using that knowledge to open the door, just like a thinking creature would. Stan Winston's team studied footage of birds and primates manipulating objects to understand how to make the raptor's interaction with the door handle appear organic. The movements had to show the raptor thinking things through, starting slow and unsure, then becoming more certain and steady as it began to figure out how the door worked. We did dozens of takes getting that movement right, Lantieri continued. Too fast and it looks mechanical. Too slow and it loses tension. We needed that perfect pace that suggests an intelligent creature working through a problem in real time. The sound design for this scene was equally important. Sound designer Gary Rydstrom has explained that the audio in this scene was designed to be almost musical in its rhythm, with each sound contributing to the mounting suspense. Joseph Mazzello has mentioned that this scene explains what made the raptors so effective as antagonists. They're not just monsters, they're problem solvers. That's what's truly frightening. The door isn't a barrier to them, it's a puzzle to be solved. That moment when the handle starts to turn and you realize they've figured it out, that's pure dread. Experts who study animal behavior and the mind have praised this scene for showing smart, problem-solving behavior. Whether real velociraptors were truly that clever remains uncertain. Still, the way the movie shows them thinking and planning makes them feel like real, intelligent predators rather than just scary creatures. Spielberg has said that this moment captures the heart of the story, that no matter how advanced humans become, they can't fully control nature. The door stands for human invention and safety, but intelligence, instinct, and life itself always find a way through. The film's color grading changed the industry standard. When people talk about Jurassic Park's groundbreaking technology, they usually mention dinosaurs. Cinematographer Dean Cundy and the post-production team made a masterpiece with the color grading. We were working with a relatively new digital color timing system that gave us control over the image in ways that hadn't been possible before, Cudney explained in a 2012 cinematography masterclass. This allowed us to create distinct color palettes for different parts of the film that supported the emotional journey. Every scene was approached as its own color story, Cundy continued. The amber and gold tones of the park tour vehicles weren't accidental. They represented the warm glow of Hammond's vision. The blue-green tones of the night scenes represented the cold reality of nature asserting itself. The T-Rex attack scene illustrates this approach. Despite being filmed under carefully controlled lighting conditions, the final color grading made the scene appear to be lit primarily by lightning and vehicle lights, with deep blacks and stark highlights that heightened the drama. The rain itself was color-corrected to appear more visible and atmospheric than it would in reality. This level of color manipulation required technology that was just becoming available. The digital intermediate process, now standard in filmmaking, was still in its infancy. Jurassic Park was among the first major films to fully embrace what digital color timing could achieve, setting a standard that other films would follow. Sam Neill has mentioned that seeing the final color-graded film was revelatory. We'd shot these scenes under conditions that were quite different from how they appeared in the finished film. The color work transformed good footage into something that felt primal and elemental. It was like seeing the movie for the first time, even though I'd lived through filming it. The consistency of the color grading across nearly 2,000 shots, ranging from full daylight exteriors to dark interior scenes, to complex computer-generated imagery integrations, required a massive coordination effort. Laura Dern has said that the color work, particularly in the power shed scene, enhanced its impact. Those scenes were shot under relatively normal lighting conditions for safety and visibility, but the final grade made them feel like I was genuinely alone in the dark with only emergency lighting. Many movies were made afterward. It was not just about making the film look nice, but about using color to tell a story. The colors changed with the emotions. Warm colors showed wonder and excitement. Cool, dark colors showed fear and danger. This idea became a common tool in action movies worldwide. Everyone was part of a huge experiment that pushed the limits of what was possible. Each person gave something special. Laura Dern kept working even after hurting her arm and fought to make her character strong and smart. Jeff Goldblum turned his real nervous energy into great acting. The child actors stayed brave even when the machines around them felt truly scary. The crew kept fixing problems no one had ever faced before and sometimes found new solutions by pure luck. The amazing dinosaur effects are famous, but these human stories matter just as much. The shaking water in the cup, the raptor opening the door, the T-Rex crashing through the glass, and the Gallimimus stampede, each moment worked because the actors gave real reactions while doing something extremely hard. Even with all the danger, stress, and chaos, the cast still remembers the movie with love and pride. They knew they were part of something that would change film history. Together, they blended great direction, new technology, and genuine emotion to create a story that still thrills people today. Jurassic Park became more than just a box office hit. It proved that big, exciting movies can also have heart and intelligence. It showed that real models and computer effects can work together beautifully. These behind-the-scenes tales remind us that movie magic is not really magic at all. People work hard, take risks, fix problems, and sometimes get lucky. Even as new tools and digital tricks appear, Jurassic Park still shows what happens when imagination, skill, and courage meet. Hearing what the cast went through makes us appreciate the film even more and reminds us that the impossible can become real when people believe enough to make it happen. Jurassic Park also taught the world an important lesson about creativity and fear. It showed that sometimes the most powerful ideas come from moments of panic or mistakes. Through it all, the team did not give up. They found new ways to make it work. The movie reminds us that progress is not always clean or easy. It can be loud, messy, and full of surprises, but it is worth it. Every sound, every shadow, every drop of rain helped build a world that felt alive. Long after the credits rolled, people remembered how it made them feel, amazed, curious, and full of wonder. That is the real magic of Jurassic Park, not just dinosaurs, but the human courage that brought them to life. Which of these facts did you find most interesting? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring content like this. Before you go, kindly watch the other videos on your screen.